There are so many things that I wish that I had known at the start of my spiritual awakening, not because I did anything wrong, but because I think I would have been kinder to myself if I had better understood what this path really asks of you. Because it's not always peaceful or pretty or linear or even easy to explain. So today I'm sharing 10 things that I wish that I had known at the start of my midlife spiritual awakening. Welcome to Higher Self Mastery, the podcast for women ready to leave behind who they were told to be and remember who they truly are. I'm your host, Dami Schumacher. This is your space to come home to yourself, to honor the inner pull for more truth and more depth, and more meaning as you enter a new chapter of your life. Together, we're reframing midlife crisis into the midlife magic that it actually is, because this is your rebirth. Through soulful conversations and spiritual tools, you'll reconnect to your truth and reclaim your voice and live the life that your soul came here for. So let's begin. So let's begin with one that feels important to call out early, because the spiritual path can become another place where the ego slips in. So number one on my list is don't become self-righteous about the path. Now, I'm not judging anyone here, because I definitely have been in this place and I still see it all the time. And I get it, because it can feel like when you suddenly tap into this new world, this access to a whole other level of understanding and knowledge, another new perspective and shift on how life actually operates and works, you can, with it, feel a sense of superiority. Like, oh my gosh, I've just been let in on a secret that I was oblivious to up until now. But now that I can see what has been hiding from me all of this time, oh my gosh, now I can see how everybody else is still living under this mask, this illusion. And yes, on the one hand, you are right in that when you do start to have that awakening, you are in the minority. And that is still true, even though we are going through this mass collective awakening currently. We are still in the minority, unfortunately. Wouldn't it be wonderful when that becomes the majority? But with that can come a sense and a feeling that, well, I know something that they don't know, and that means I'm right and they're wrong. But this is something to be very, very careful of, because the path of awakening, this path of spiritual exploration, is to humble us, not to make us more self-righteous, not to put us up on a pedestal. Yet it is inevitably a part of the journey as well, because it is one of the tests that you are presented with. I have talked about in other episodes where when I first had my big first transformation, and it was through the tool of Vipassana meditation, I became quite self-righteous about that particular tool and how that was the only way to do things. And this was the answer for everybody, right? And of course, this is not true. I don't even really use that particular tool anymore myself. But humility is what we are aiming for. Humility is what really, truly shows us if we are walking on this path in the correct way. Now, there isn't a right or a wrong, so I'm hesitant to say the word correct because it's all a journey for learning, for growth, for exploration. But what I mean by that is if we do find ourselves in this place where we are becoming self-righteous and we feel like we sit and stand on a pedestal above others, then this is where your ego has come in. This is where some of your shadows are showing and rearing their faces. So it's about learning to be accepting. It's about learning to be non-judgmental. That it's about learning to be humble because we are each on our own individual and unique journeys. We have each come into this life with different lessons, with different challenges that we, our souls, have decided to undertake in this human life. And we are each at different stages of our spiritual evolution. Some of us may be towards the end of our evolution. Some of us may just be starting. That's not better or worse, right or wrong. It is just what it is. And it takes all of that variety and that depth for there to be this beautiful fusion of experiences and this mix and this cocktail. Because if everybody was at the end of evolution, and we were all pretty much going through the same lessons, and all pretty much aware and know that, and at the stage where maybe we are dissolving the ego quite well, we wouldn't actually be confronted with the tests and the challenges that we need for that growth. We need this mix. We need people who are at those early stages of their evolution and awareness to bring confronting challenges to us, to mirror things that we still need to work on, to test us, to ask us to show up in our highest and best selves. So we need this variety and this mixture. Without people being at different stages, we would not be able to grow in quite the way that we are able to grow. We need them, and they need us in different ways. They need also, whether they realize it or not, to be able to look forward and see that, there is a different way of being. Maybe one day, maybe somehow, that could be possible for me. And whether it happens in this lifetime or very late of their human life, or maybe not in this lifetime at all, but there's a seed. By your interaction, there's a seed that has then been planted. So let's not become self-righteous when we do this work. If you have in the past caught yourself there, or are in it at the moment, or find yourself there in the future, it's okay. It's part of the work. But yeah, I think when I came out of this phase and looked back at how I had been behaving and some of the things that I might have said or thought, more to the point, I was quite embarrassed and a little ashamed of myself. And now, much further along on the journey, I can see this was just a very necessary part of the growth that I had to go through, and it's okay. I think the important thing is that I don't do that anymore. And that, yeah, I wish that I had just been more accepting and kinder to myself, that this is just part of the evolution and growth. So your truth can be true for you without it needing to be the truth for everyone else. Let's finish that point on there. Point number 2. Growth is not linear. my goodness, this one was an illusion for me. I think most of these things were illusions. And it's not until you go on the journey, right, that you realize, oh my gosh, I was so wrong. So growth is not linear. And that is true in all areas of our life, including spiritual growth. So you can absolutely have major breakthroughs and then come crashing down. I think also with time, I have learned, especially at the beginning, and I used to map it in my journal. I used to journal quite a lot, like on a daily, regular basis. And at one point, I drew it out at the back of my journal. I was like, in 2006, this happened, and I was flying high in the sky, and these amazing things happened. And then look what happened 6 months later. I plummeted down here and this happened, and it was such a difficult challenge for me. And oh my gosh, in the moment, I didn't think I was going to get out of it. And then I came back up, and then I came back down, and then I went back up, and then I went back down. And it's not just these ups and downs as well. You know, as I map it more and more and do more of this work, I am also able to see that sometimes it feels like this is not what is actually happening, but it can feel like that you are taking 6 steps forward and then maybe 4 steps back, or 4 steps forward and 6 steps back. And that's also okay, because it just means where this back and forth is happening, there is just more work for you to do, where you may have thought that you have conquered a learning, a teaching, a lesson. You may, in fact, have just scratched the surface, and there is just so much more still to come up, to be healed, to be released and transmuted. So it is perfectly normal to have this expansion and then contraction, and this expansion and then this contraction. Just like the way we breathe, just like the way the lungs move, just like the way the earth, planet moves, everything is in this beautiful rhythmic breath. And it is inevitable that we're going to have highs and lows. And I've actually found with time that the higher the highs get, the lower the lows get. Right? And this is because our higher selves are able to see that we are capable. We are capable of navigating this. So it will look at what challenges it has presented to me. And then if I've managed to overcome and transcend it, it will say, well done, Dami. Great. Okay. Now I've got the next one lined up for you. And it's going to be even bigger. And I think a lot of the highs do end up coming off the back of those really, really difficult challenges that we then learn to overcome. When we overcome those really big moments in our lives, however they manifest, in whichever area of our life they appear, when we manage to move through it, staying true to ourselves, staying honest with ourselves, staying aligned with ourselves, becoming a better version of ourselves. Maybe not perfectly, of course not perfectly, but a better version of ourselves, and having learned things as we go through it. As a reward, there is this beautiful expansion that takes us very, very high, because we are able to see life with new lens, with new perspective, with greater clarity. And so then we have this, wow, okay, this is amazing. What a beautiful gift. I feel so abundant. I feel so in love. I feel so expansive, so everything. And life is beautiful and sparkly and magical. And then after a little while in that moment, the universe says, okay, enough hanging out and having fun and celebrating. Well done. I'm celebrating with you. Next. This is what I've got in store for you now. Let's go. And then you have your next challenge, right? So know that growth is not linear, but also do not mistake those low moments as failures. It is just part of the journey. The third point is that the path does not get easier, but you get stronger. I remember many moons ago, a few decades ago, actually at a Vipassana meditation center. And I was talking to one of the more seasoned students there who had been doing it at that point for decades. And I remember him saying to me, they don't get any easier. They just get more wonderful. And he was talking specifically about those 10-day sits that we do in Vipassana meditation. And at the time, I only understood that on an intellectual level. I hadn't any lived experience of what he meant. However, now I can say that I do in different ways, because as I pointed out in the last one, where growth is not linear, I also alluded to this difficulty of the challenges that we are then presented with. And the reason that is because we are supposed to be always on that growth edge, always pushing, always clearing all the stories and the conditioning and the masks of who we have been led to believe that we are, all these identities that we carry and wear that have been given to us by family, society, culture, all of that. But none of those things actually being true. Yet we walk around and carry all this, and the work here is to strip all this away. Strip it back, strip it back, strip it back. But as we strip away, the work takes us to deeper levels, takes us to things that are more and more challenging for us to accept, to face, to confront. Things that we wish were not true, things that we have buried so deep inside of us that we may have even forgotten, things that we have perhaps even brought with us karmically from the past life. Big, big lessons. And life will never stop doing this, because that is what we are here for. We are here in this human skin, in this human costume, to have this experience, this human experience, so that we can play out and live out these lessons of unmasking. The challenge here is to be able to strip everything back and find your way home to who we really are, to who we really are inside, each and every one of us. And as we do that, yes, the work gets more challenging. The confrontations become bigger. The lessons become bigger. So no, as you move further along on this path, it doesn't get easier. What does happen is that we become better at navigating it, because one, you have the lived experience of having transmuted the past challenges, and seen that you have come out the other side, and seen that not only have you survived, but actually in hindsight, you're better off for it. Seen how it has made you stronger, seen how you are more true to yourself now than you ever were then, even though at the time that felt so hard and you couldn't understand why or that there would ever be a way out. But now, with perspective and distance and time, you're able to look back and go, okay, it felt big then, but now I can see actually it wasn't so big, and look at me. Well done. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. I did that. Right? And so when we are then presented with the next one, which feels just as big and just as murky and just as overwhelming, we have that knowledge that, oh, hold on a second. It feels just as big as it did last time. But you know what? I did it last time. And so I can. I've got that lived experience. I can say I did it before and I can do it again. So you learn to ride the waves. And that's how we return home to ourselves. It's that, okay, the universe then first delivers you level 1 to help you expand and grow. Then level 2, expand and grow a bit more. Level 3, expand and grow a little bit more. And it always feels messy. It always feels uncomfortable. It always feels challenging. I'm reluctant to use the word hard, but earlier on in the days when I first started this work, I would have used that word. It feels hard. It feels like there's no way out. It feels like you are not going to reach a solution. It feels like your world is crumbling. It feels like everything has broken down, like the rug has been pulled from under your feet. It feels like all of those things. But I promise you that you become stronger for it. I promise you that you get better at navigating it. And why do this? Why become stronger? Why become better at navigating it? Because there is a reward at the end of it. That after the stripping away, there is a reward. A reward of feeling more yourself, a reward of carrying less weight, a reward of greater joy, greater peace, greater equanimity, greater balance, and so much more. Point number 4. Do the deep, dark inner work sooner. Now, it is so easy to start on this path, especially now, I think more than ever before, because there is so much out there. And on the one hand, and when I say so much out there, I mean tools and methods and ways to grow, right? And with this global knowledge of and access, I should say, to anything and everything. So we know indigenous methods and ceremonies and spiritual techniques from deep South Amazonia all the way to India and Tibet and Africa and the indigenous people of Australia, like all of those things, right? Everything's accessible to us. And we can have it all at our fingertips. There is just so much out there. On the one hand, I'm kind of grateful that when I started my journey, there wasn't so much access, right? I think I would have been overwhelmed and confused. But with this, so many different options of how to dip into this world of spiritual awakening, this evolution, this growth. it can be easy to get caught up in the more surface level tools and techniques. Now, everybody's got to start somewhere. What I'm saying is don't get stuck there, because a lot of these, and you can go jumping from one to the next, 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 to the next. And I'm not saying don't experiment. I'm not saying don't try new things. Please do. I really want you to. But don't overlook, and this is what I would have said to myself, don't overlook the real work, the deep, deep inner work. Because until you do that, the real healing doesn't actually begin. All you're doing is shaving off the top, some of the dirt, washing that clean. But you're not getting to what's really, really deeply rooted inside. So, and ultimately, that is what is poisoning or penetrating the different areas of your life where you are not seeing the results that you wish to see, whether it's in your health, your relationships, your money, your career, your success, whatever that is. Wherever there feels like this isn't what I want, why aren't things changing? It's because the root of where the problems lie, you're not actually accessing. And a lot of these spiritual tools that are available and that we read about and we see and that are very enticing, lots of ceremonies and rituals, especially when we go to things like festivals, workshops and things like that. It's fine to start there, but don't stay there. You have to meet the real work, where the shame lives, where the guilt lives, where the fear lives, where the abandonment lives, the lack of self-worth. All those really, really deep topics that feel hard and confronting to address. Those big blocks. The things that bring you down to your knees. The things that make you sob. The things that wake you up at night where you have to hug yourself and cry. All of those things, they have to be dealt with. Otherwise, the real healing cannot begin. You can keep snipping the top of a weed, but it will keep on growing back until you dig it out from its root. And that's what the deep, dark inner work is all about. So please don't avoid it. Begin it today, now, as soon as you can, just one step at a time. Because you can put a plaster on a wound, but you will never clean out what is underneath if you're not truly healing. Point number 5, the 5th thing that I wish I had known. You cannot force what is unfolding in divine timing as much as we want to. And I make that face because if those of you watching on YouTube, I say that because sometimes I wish this wasn't true. I still, because we kind of want things now. And we don't always want to wait. Let's be honest. But when we have been made to wait and when things have eventually come forth and materialized for us and manifested for us, maybe months later or years later after we've been asking for it, or maybe even given up on it, or think that we've given up on it. And then it comes through and you're like, oh, okay. Now, again, hindsight, such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Now, in hindsight, I can see that had I received this 6 months ago, 2 years ago, I was not ready. I hadn't quite healed, or how I might have sabotaged the gift. And now is the right time. Now I'm mature enough. Now I'm smarter, wiser. And it's always that way. It's always that way. And you can't force it even if you want to. So just accept it. Bottom line, right? The universe has got, even though we co-create with the universe has that slightly stronger last word in things. And so no matter, you might say, I'm ready for that dream career this year. I want it now. I want that. I remember doing this a couple of years ago. I'm like, I'm ready for that quantum leap. I want this quantum leap. And I was I'm a specific manifester. And I was really, really clear about what kind of quantum leap I wanted in my business. And I said, I want it. I'm ready. Universe, I'm so ready. Please deliver it. Please deliver it. And I was doing all the things. And then when it didn't come through, I was like, oh, okay. And about 6 months later or 9 months later, I can't remember exactly, I remember thinking back to that point and I'm like, I wasn't ready. I'm still not ready. Had that come through, I would have fucked it up. I hate to admit it, but that was the truth. I would have fucked it up and I was not ready. I wasn't set up to handle what would have come through the door. It may come through so much later when I'm least expecting it. We have to get comfortable and willing to sit in the pauses. Sometimes there's this pregnant breath, this place where you've just got to sit and hold it all. And just because it doesn't look like things are moving forward doesn't mean things are not moving or changing within you. Externally, it may all look the same. Not much might be shifting. But internally, so much could be healing and coming to the surface and being released. And that stillness, that pause, is when we allow it to come through and be released. And it's in that work. And again, that goes back to this, the point before where I say do the deep inner work, because that's when we are really preparing ourselves to be ready for the things that we want to call in. And it's not about pushing. It's not about forcing. So drop this masculine way of doing things. You have to trust in yourself. Because something doesn't come through, it doesn't mean it won't happen. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean you're not deserving. It doesn't mean anything about you other than the fact that you're not ready. And not ready because you're not deserving and it won't happen, but not ready because you haven't fully healed in the way you need to heal, recalibrated yourself to hold what it is you're calling in. So keep doing the work, keep doing what you're doing. Keep digging things up and letting them go. Work through them, dig them up and let them go. And eventually, if that dream is still aligned for you and you still desire it, it will come and happen for you. You've got to trust in that divine timing. Point number 6. The destination is not the point. Now, I know you'll have all heard this a gazillion times, and it's almost cliche and a little bit cringe to say it. It's not the destination, it's the journey. But it's so true. And when you begin this journey, at the start of my journey, I was so, without realizing it, so focused on an end point of getting to this place of bliss. You know, I think how it's marketed now is a little different, but back in the day when I first began, I had this misconception, this idea that spiritual awakening is about feeling peaceful and blissful and joyful all the time. And I just wanted to get to that. I mean, who doesn't? And I think that's what a lot of people still feel like this journey should be about and what it's actually about. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There is that once we begin to expand, once we begin to grow and evolve, you will experience moments of these emotions. But it's not about getting there. It's not about this end destination, because actually there isn't an end. First and foremost, like for the mass majority of us, 99.999999999% and more, there is no end point to this journey. Not yet. The people or beings that have come before us who have found that end point are people like Jesus Christ, are people like Gautama Buddha, you know, people who are now seen as saints or gods. And that's because they have transcended everything. But for the majority of us, we're not likely to get to that end point. By all means, keep it there as a goal. By all means, have it there for, that is what, to guide you. That's what you're working towards. But the real work here is not how quickly you can get there. It really, really is about who you become and what you learn about yourself along the way. Even I cringed a bit when my transformation teacher, Mary Morrissey, reiterated this point. And I'm like, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, not you as well, Mary, really? But I believed her. And I believed it anyway before, but I just didn't want to, right? I wanted there to be this, and that's very much how our minds work, the human minds work. This sort of concrete idea of being able to put something in a box and this is what it's going to look like, and that's what I'm working towards. Whereas when we say what I'm working towards is just this growing evolution of who I become on the journey, I mean, that's just, you can't hold that, you can't structure it, you can't put a framework behind it, you can't, it's not tangible, and it feels harder to understand and hold. So it's good to have that goal for sure, but know that it is not about achieving and reaching that goal ever. That's not really what this is about at all. You learn so much about who you are along the way, what you're capable of, how much more courageous you actually are, how much more resilient you are, how much forgiveness you need to do, how kind you are, how talented you are, how gifted you are, how worthy you are, how amazing and magnificent you are. And all of the shadow things too. And it's who you become on a daily basis that is really the point of this journey. How you show up every day. That's the goal, if there is one. That is the only measuring stick. The measuring stick is not getting to that end goal, that end destination. The measuring stick is how you show up as a human being every single day. Whether you are kinder, whether you are more tolerant, whether you are more forgiving, more compassionate, more understanding, more loving, more generous, more patient. Those are your measuring sticks. And remember, it's not linear. So you might get to some of those things, and then life may present you with more challenges where you thought you were really patient. That certainly was one for me. I always thought I was a very patient person, and actually was very proud of being quite a patient person. And in certain situations, I can be very patient. But what I have also learned is that, my God, I've got a lot to still do. And certain people, certain situations trigger me so much that I am the least patient person in the room. So, it shows me that, okay, more work there, Dami. And that's okay. It's not that I haven't achieved anything. I have achieved a lot. But there's more work to be done there, more wounds to heal there still. So the real transformation is who you become along the way. Point number 7, the signs are always there. And this is a reminder that you are never alone, ever. And sometimes when we feel lost, sometimes when we feel lonely, this is a really important point to remember, that you are never alone and you are never actually lost, even if you feel really confused and you don't know what to do next, or it feels like your world has collapsed and everything you once knew has crumbled and you've lost your identity and all of those things. You are not lost. You are not alone. I've said it earlier on that, we are co-creators with the universe, and in that way the universe is not silent or absent until we call upon it to create. It is always active and always working and always supporting us and always guiding us, always, relentlessly, 24 hours a day, even when we're sleeping, through our subconscious mind, through our dreams. And if you can write down your dreams, if you are able to lucid dream and do all of those wonderful things, then you can even access that knowledge and that guidance even more acutely then. But for those of you who may not, and I can't, it's something I'm still working on, but I can't do that yet, the signs are still very much alive and present in our waking day, as well as in all of the nudges, all of the little signs. Know that there is no such thing as a coincidence. Never, ever. If something catches your attention, even if it is the most mundane, everyday thing, if it's something that you see and it's so ordinary and you see it and experience it every single day, but on this particular day it catches your attention, it doesn't have to catch anybody else's attention. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks, because I've done this before. I've voiced it out loud when I remember getting some spirit animal guidance. And we were walking down the green where we always walk the dog. And these crows just started swooping towards me quite aggressively, like really in front of my face, like they were swooping down at me and trying to get my attention, and they wouldn't stop. Like, I'd long walked past the area where their nest was, and they would almost like they were singling me out and chasing me, and I couldn't figure out why. But because I have this because I'm on this path and because I now have this greater awareness of these signs and synchronicities and animal medicine, I was like, oh my gosh, they are asking me to pay attention to their spirit and their medicine. And so immediately I went home and looked up, like, what was that about? What's the crow medicine? But at the time I mentioned it to my husband, who was also walking with me, and I said to him, this is a sign. Like, the universe is trying to get my attention. There's some medicine here, animal medicine here for me. And his response was, I think they're just being protective of their nest because it was springtime and they've probably got babies in their nest and you've got the dog with you. And so they're just being protective of the nest, which logically, yeah, could have been the reason. But I knew that wasn't the reason. And I didn't need him to understand it. I didn't need anyone else to understand it. So sometimes in these cases, don't even bother voicing it to anyone, right? Because sometimes it can, if you're new to this and you're just starting on this path, unless you know that other person is going to understand it in the way that you do, they're going to convince you that it wasn't a sign through their logic. And all that matters is that those crows could have done exactly the same thing and I may not have thought anything of it. If I didn't think anything of it and didn't mean anything to me, then so be it. It's nothing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it didn't ping at me. But in this case, it did ping at me. But know this as well. I said maybe it is and maybe it isn't, because know this, that this is something that you have to fine tune. This is something that you have to practice, look for it to become clearer and more obvious. But know also, I look back on my life and I look back at all the times where I was being guided, when all the times I thought I was really lost and I thought I didn't know what was going on, or I thought I was on my own. And I look back at how the universe put me in situations, put me in front of certain people, took me to certain countries, put me in certain communities, in certain job roles. And I see all this orchestrating that it did for me, conversations, small things, nudges. And we've talked about this before, and the nudges get louder. Sometimes if I'm just not listening or I'm not getting it, they get louder and louder and louder and louder until it's almost like the universe is sort of elbowing you and say, come on, what's wrong with you? How loudly do you need me to scream? And sometimes it will scream, but we don't want that to happen. But know that it is always there. It is always, always guiding you. So trust that you are never, ever alone. Signs, nudges, synchronicities, whether that's numbers that you recognize and see, whether that's medicine animal that you see, whether it's conversations you may have, you read something, all of it. The more you pay attention to it and give it some relevance, give it some importance, the more you will see. Because it is always, always, always co-creating. The universe is always there as an unseen source of support. So know that you are always supported, more than you realize. But you have to become aware enough to notice. Point number 8. Build a relationship with your intuition. So, your intuition is your inner, internal guiding compass. It is how your higher self communicates with you, how it gives you those downloads, how it shares the wisdom, how it will tell you what your truth is, what is right for you, what is best for you. But it is a relationship that you need to build and nurture. And I so wish that I knew this earlier. for a long time, I just thought I wasn't capable of it, or I just thought my intuition isn't strong. And I just thought that some people have a strong intuition and some people don't. I never knew that we all have the same access to potentially have a very, very strong relationship with our intuition and have that internal compass and guidance with us all the time. Because once we have that, oh my gosh, what a game changer. You stop looking for external validation. You stop looking for answers and solutions and guidance from outside of you. It's fine to do that occasionally, but you will stop doing it. More and more, you will just turn quietly, internally within yourself. And that is the way to build your intuition, is in the stillness, in the meditation, in the journaling, in those quiet moments with yourself. Because it is a still, quiet voice. It does not scream. It does not shout. It does not repeat itself. It does not convince you. And so amongst all the noise and the noise of our ego and our worry and our fear and the chatter, all of the noise that comes from our prefrontal cortex, the thinking mind, it can easily be drowned out if we are not nurturing the relationship and making it stronger. And that is something each and every one of us can do, should do. And it will be one of the greatest gifts that you give yourself. So please do not waste time. Please do not think that you either have strong intuition or you don't. And even if you have strong intuition, you can make it stronger. So don't feel like there's no work to do on your part. But start today, please. For me, I felt like I didn't have a strong intuition. I think I did. I think I knew I did initially, but then I lost that because of all the conditioning and life and experiences and all of those things. And then when I really, really wanted to be able to connect with it, I just couldn't. I felt so disconnected from it. And it took me a long time to rebuild that connection, to rebuild what it is I was listening for, rebuild the ability to hear it. And we have different ways in which we receive it, the guidance, whether that is a knowing, a seeing, a thought, a word, a feeling. I've covered it before. There's all these different ways that our intuition can speak to us and communicate with us. You need to learn what yours is, what your relationship with your intuition, how that looks for you, uniquely yours. And the more you begin to trust it, just like with the signs and the synchronicities, the more you begin to trust your intuition, no matter, even if it doesn't make sense, it's just not logical. Everything we're doing here is not logical. So throw logic out the window. I used to pride myself as being very, very logical once upon a time ago. Now I see how it was my downfall, how it was such the masculine way to do things, and how it took me away from really feeling the truth. And so throw logic out the window, please. Maybe that should have been another point too. Throw logic out the window. The more you trust your intuitive nudges, it's okay if they're not always right. It's okay if they don't always get you to the outcome that you were hoping for or thought you would get to. It's all right. Doesn't mean it wasn't right for you to follow those nudges. But the more you do, the clearer they become, the louder they become, the easier it becomes for you to notice them. And when your intuition grows, when your relationship with your intuition grows, it is one of the most grounding gifts that you can give yourself, like the way that it roots you into your own truth, roots you to source from your core and from up here, from your higher self, so you're solid from the bottom and the top. Wowzers. It's powerful. So powerful. Like, you become unshakable. You can't explain things to other people. You don't need to explain things to people. You don't even want to explain things to anybody else, because it's none of their goddamn business how you choose to make decisions in your life. Sometimes a bit tricky when you're in partnerships. But you know. You just know. And that's such a profound and powerful tool and gift to give to yourself. So start that journey now. Build that relationship now. Don't delay. Point number 9, you cannot bypass the messy human bits. Wouldn't it be lovely if, as we go deeper on this journey, as we move forward on this journey, that things become more graceful, that we start to get things right more often, that we experience more joy, more grace, more love, more peace as we move forward. Yes, on the one hand, those things are true and they do happen, but not without all of those emotions that we wish did not exist sometimes, that we sometimes hide away, neglect to face, neglect to acknowledge are a part of us because they make us feel shameful or they make us doubt ourselves. Things like guilt, things like jealousy, things like fear or lack or anger, grief, sadness, all of these things that can feel mucky and murky and muddy are very, very much a part of the experience. As I said before, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so being human means to have this full color spectrum of emotions. It's what we do in those moments that matters. You cannot stop having those emotions. You're not going to stop having those emotions because as you go on the journey, you're going to peel back the layers and different ones will come up and different emotions associated to those stories or limitations or the wounds will surface and you will have to you have to feel those emotions, give them space, acknowledge them, honor them, thank them. Because they are very much a part of what makes you who you are. And allow them to be, embrace them. You do not get to have this journey without experiencing moments where we feel like we have made the wrong decisions, choices that we may even regret for a while. Things that we wish didn't take so long, things that we wish had panned out in different ways, things that we wish that we hadn't said or did say. We have to be able to live with all of this because all of this is what makes us. All of this is what gives us those lessons, those teachings. It is messy. The human experience is messy, but it is also just as colorful and rich and full spectrum as a result of it. It is beautiful if you choose to change your perspective on what these emotions are and why they are coming up for you, rather than seeing them as things to hide, to be ashamed of, to pretend they do not exist and push down inside of yourself, or as being negative. But if we shift that perspective and see them as signals, see them as messages from our subconscious mind, from our body, of what has previously been out of alignment. They are clues. They are clues where we have previously abandoned ourselves, previously where we have not set down those boundaries and allowed other people to come in and hurt us, where we have not felt safe or seen or loved and felt neglected, perhaps. All of those wounds. And as challenging as it may be, in all of this messiness, that's where the healing can begin. That's where the healing can take place. And that's where you can begin to start to shed the layers and allow yourself to evolve and grow as you allow yourself to sit with the mess. It is not this beautiful journey that you skip along and into higher ascension. Sometimes it's a shitfest, right? It's about being raw and about being honest. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself in those moments. Allow yourself to feel everything you're feeling unapologetically. And allow yourself to be very, very human, even though you are a spiritual being in this human experience. You are not here to float above humanity. You are here to meet it with love, because that is what your soul has chosen to do. It has chosen very consciously, very intentionally to have this human experience. And although the aim here is to return home, to come back to who we really are, to remember who we are, it is not by bypassing the human aspect of this journey. It is by acknowledging all that the human can be. And yet, despite the complexities of being a human, the choices you make, the decisions you make, the growth you accept and welcome. And as you navigate it, the more you allow it to just be messy and surrender to it, that is the grace. It's the fighting back, the pushing back, the pretending it doesn't exist, the hiding, the shaming, like concealing all of that. That's not graceful. So meet it with love. Okay, final point. Point number 10, last one. Stay the humble student. So I mentioned earlier, this journey doesn't end. There's really no end goal or destination. Not really. Not for most of us. There isn't a final arrival point. And in that, the way that this journey will become richer and more rewarding and less turbulent is by remaining the humble student. No matter how much you have learned, unless it has become your embodied truth, it is still something you are entertaining in your intellectual mind. And this is true for everyone. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been on this journey. I don't care what your level of expertise is. This is true for each and every one of you. That is why we repeat things. that is why there is power in repetition. Because you can have a truth taught to you, repeated to you 10, 15, 20 times, maybe over 5 years, even over 10 years. But one day, it will just feel different. If you remain the open, humble student, it will just feel different. If you're still open to receiving it like, okay, I hear that. Thank you. Thank you for that message. Yeah, I'm so grateful to receive that message again. I'm so grateful to receive that teaching, that wisdom again. And then one day, as long as you stay open and receptive, it's just going to go, whoom. That just made sense in a very, very different way. And then one day, as a result of it landing differently, you will begin to act differently. You will begin to think differently. You will begin to feel differently. You will be different because you will have begun to embody it. And until you are embodying that wisdom, that truth, you are not living it. And until you are not living it, you still need to be a student for it. And that, I think, is one of the biggest hurdles, because so many people will read and read and read, and books after books and course after course, and it's easy to go, oh yeah, and always be in search of that next new thing, something different, because that's how our mind works. We want the entertainment factor, something that's new and fresh and juicy and exciting, and we don't really want to revisit the same stuff. But that's why you'll find some of the teachers and the coaches that you probably follow will have repetitions. You know, some of the really successful ones, the really good ones, they will have repetition in what they do. Whether it's their podcast, whether it's their course, whether it's their workshops, their teachings, whatever it is, you will hear them talking about similar concepts, same core teachings, again and again and again and again. And they will not stop. And one of the reasons is because they will understand and know that people need to hear it again and again and again and again and again. And as long as you, the listener, the receiver, the person on the other end, remains the humble student, one day it will just drop in a different way and land in a different way in your body, and you will be a different person for it. But until that happens, I don't want you to say out loud or even say in your head, oh, but I already know that. Oh, I've heard that before. Skip, next. Give me something new. No. I've done it. At the beginning, I definitely did it. And that held me back. 100% it held me back because I thought I knew stuff. I didn't know shit. I knew it intellectually. I had heard of it before intellectually. I may have even studied it and written about it and journaled about it and done workshops on it and done courses on it. I may have done all the things, but I wasn't living it yet. And the way that I know I wasn't living it yet is because I was not seeing the results that I desired. That particular teaching claimed to give you, or that particular wisdom claimed that you should be experiencing. If I'm not actually embodied in it, I'm not going to see those results. And there is my evidence that I still need to be a student. So stay the student, because the moment that you think you know it all, life will show you where you do not know it all. If there's one thing that you take away from this episode, is this: you're not doing anything wrong because it feels messy. And the path is not about becoming perfect at all. It's about becoming more honest, more humble, more courageous, and more fully yourself. As always, if this episode spoke to you, share it with a woman who is navigating her own awakening or midlife shift. And if you're not already following Higher Self Mastery, then please do hit follow so the next episode lands in your feed. And do stay tuned because there is a part 2 of this, which I think you'll be very interested in hearing as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Higher Self Mastery. If something landed, moved you, or sparked a shift, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with a woman in your life that is also ready to rise. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast, especially in these early days. It really helps others to find this work too. If you're craving deeper support and sisterhood, join my mailing list using the link below, where you'll be the first to receive free meditations, learn about up-and-coming retreats, and other ways that we can work together. Until next time, honor your truth and trust in the timing of your becoming.